Hey, it's David Ducker coming back at you. Return to the runefangs, episode 14, part 2. So we last left our daring heroes in the siege of heideck. Heideck was being attacked by the orc hordes of Clan Bloodaxe. Part 1 of this video detailed the charge of Ulrich Berengar and Blaine Charnda's forces, along with, of course, Baron Ramsay Holloman, to rescue the Order of the Black Bear. They were successful in doing so. But this video, we're going to cut back to Donnie Orr, the squire of Sir Gregor Ullman, who had been run through with a troll spear coated in manticore poison. Back when the party had encountered orcs on the road to heideck. When they're coming into the besieged city, they had to fight their way through, and one of their members, Donnie Orr, was stabbed with his poison spear. So they repaired a wagon, which was from a wrecked caravan the orcs had sacked, and threw Donnie in the back of this wagon and took him into heideck. So Donnie is now awakening in this small chapel of Verena, goddess of wisdom, and he actually has Agatha Waldberg looking down on him, as well as Cecilia Waldberg, her sister. Cecilia is a blue mage. She's a mage of the Celestial Order of Heavens, of the Stars, of Divination, and Agatha is, of course, a priestess of Verena, goddess of wisdom and truth and justice. So he awakens and sees his wound has been healed, and he's alive, which he's shocked because Skald had told him that it was manticore poison, which is the deadliest poison in the old world. So he pretty much expected himself to die right there. And as he'd been laying in the back of the wagon dying, he's clutching at the scroll that he had on his person, a sealed scroll with a wax seal on the front, as well as sealed ends. But Skald had been taking his clothes off because he had a fever and needed to keep him cool. But he's clutching the scroll. He won't let anyone take it from him. Now, as he awakens, he finds that it's still in his possession. And Agatha goes through and she tells him about the situation, the city under siege, and he starts to get dressed. He's slugging on his armor, which is just a light boiled leather cuirass. But he insists that Agatha take him up to see what's going on. So they're already in the lower section of a tower of the castle, so she takes him up to the top of the tower. He's looking out this great panoramic view of the city and then the siege lines and the battle beyond. So he can see the party besieged there by the orcs. And everything we described last session, he's got this great aerial view of it, which is a lot of fun. He's talking with Agatha, saying, you know, he has to get out there and help them. And as he's saying this, he turns around, and you know, it's storming and raining, and it's very dark outside. But he turns around, and she's standing against the back wall of the tower, and he's out around the balcony. And he turns around, and there's a flash of lightning. And he can see the roof of the tower, this steepled roof. There's an enormous bat on the top of the tower, crawling down towards where Agatha is standing, and on its back is a member of Clan Bloodaxe, grasping a long lance and preparing to strike down at her. And so Donnie, of course, comes through and he shoves her out of the way, and the lance hits him instead. He takes a wound in the shoulder, and I believe he actually fell back over the balcony, and the orc dismounted and jumped down, and it kind of leered down at Agatha and then turned back towards the balcony, and it grabbed Agatha by the front of her shirt, and it's hauling her over towards the precipice, the balcony, to throw her off of the tower. And as it leans over, Donnie's hand comes up and he grabs it and he goozles it on the throat, and it's shocked and it lets go of her, and he goozles it right over the edge of the tower. And he pulls himself back up, and as he's doing this, as he's been hanging, he sees the whole tower is crawling with enormous bats that are crawling up to get onto the balcony and come in through the door and siege the castle from above as the forces are trying to siege it from below. So Donnie tells Agatha she needs to get inside. He shoves her in. He makes her lock the door, and he stands with his back to the door, and he pulls a scroll out of his armor as the bats are coming in, as if he's going to make this last stand. But he actually waves his hand over the scroll, and it transmutes into a sword. And he takes the sword up and he starts cleaving through the orcs. Now they're lightly armored because they can't wear heavy armor on a flying mount. So he has a fighting chance against them. So he's got this great battle up just on this tower, that one man holding back the siege, guarding the doorway to the tower. But he starts to take, the death of 1,000 cuts. Just a little nick here, a little slice there, and he's already wounded in his shoulder. So he starts to fall back, and then finally, he can't take it anymore. He waves his hand once again, and he actually conjures a spell. And I believe those shadowy knives start manifesting in his hand, and he takes the shadow knives and he starts throwing them, and more are conjuring, and he's just hurling these shadowy, almost illusionary blades into the body of the orcs, pressing them back. But as he does this, as he summons magical energy, he actually invoked the curse of Tzinch, and an entity from the Aether entered his body and possessed him. So he's possessed by a demon because he was casting a powerful spell. That's one of the risks in the Warhammer world. When you cast powerful magic, something might notice, and taking the notice of anything that dwells in the Aether is usually terrible. So he's possessed by the demon, and we just cut away, right? So we had this great moment of the player of Donnie kind of looking. He's like, should I roll any character? Like, what's going on? So we had this really great moment of him not knowing what's happening with his character, and we cut back to the other players who are on the battlefield, and they've defeated the orcs. And then we start in with some description, like, you look over the blood-strewn battlefield, the darkness and the rain and the corpses, and you see all the battle groups and fleeing soldiers and riderless horses. And then suddenly, looking up at over the city, you see the castle and with its great towers, and then one of the towers explodes! Boom! And Josh is like, oh my god! All the players like, oh no, not Josh. Josh, of course, is the player of Donnie. So it was a really good moment. We left it on just a tiny bit of a cliffhanger there. Just jumping back and forth between groups of the party. The party is split. We're jumping back and forth. But we try to each time to leave it on a cliffhanger. I'm going to come back with part 3 of Return of the Runefangs, part 14, The Siege of Heideck. I'll be right back at you with that.